The relationship between money and happiness according to science. To what extent is it true that money brings happiness? Find out what science says about it. The relationship between money and happiness has long been studied by sociologists, psychologists and economists. We live in a society that is aimed at achieving economic status. Therefore, finding out whether money leads to happiness is an interesting topic. When looking at the studies on the relationship between money and happiness, it is necessary to overcome many exceptions and find general rules that are seen repeatedly in different societies. Furthermore, it is important to know what role money usually plays in life satisfaction in a capitalist society. The most interesting studies concentrate on the difference between having money only to cover basic needs and having money as an opportunity to gain power in society. This is a gap that almost all research between money and happiness is based on. Money and happiness, the basic needs. One of the earliest theories about the relationship between money and happiness was outlined by Richard Easterlin. He is an economics professor at the University of Southern California, USA. Professor Easterlin found that countries with higher median incomes are generally happier than countries with lower incomes. In fact, he discovered that as long as citizens have an income sufficient to meet their basic needs, they tend to be happy. Easterlin argued that life satisfaction increases with average income, but only up to a certain point. Beyond this point, the marginal gain in happiness falls. Briefly, the paradox of happiness and income is this. At some point, both between and within nations, happiness varies directly with income, but over time happiness does not increase as a country's income increases. What exactly is happiness? For authors, such as Daniel Kahneman, happiness can be defined in terms of emotional well-being and positive evaluation of life. Emotional well-being is understood as the daily feelings that people experience, e.g. happiness, sadness, stress or anger. Life evaluation refers to the perception that people have of their life when they reflect on it. More money brings satisfaction with life, but not happiness. However, a low income is associated with both low emotional well-being and low evaluation of life. When people earn a lot of money, they feel more satisfied with their lives and less irritable, but that doesn't mean they feel happy. In fact, the peace of mind that comes with having one's basic needs met has more to do with human rights than the extent of happiness. It is clear that if you do not have basic needs, such as shelter or food, it will be extremely difficult to experience serenity and thus a sense of general happiness. More findings from studies on the relationship between money and happiness is a study by Elizabeth W. Dunn, Lara B. Annan, and Michael I. Norton, published in 2008 in Science, concluded that money buys happiness, but only if it is spent on others. In fact, the study discovered a direct correlation between the amount people spent on gifts for others and an increase in their sense of accomplishment. In another study, the team examined employees in a company that had just received a bonus in the form of profit sharing. The amount of this bonus that workers spent on others predicted their happiness 6 to 8 weeks later. The part of the bonus that they spent on themselves, on the other hand, had no effect on their happiness. In a third study, the team gave research participants between $5.20 and instructed them to spend the money on themselves or others. Then their happiness was evaluated. The study found that those who spent their money on others were happier than those who did not. It's not how much you earn, but how you spend the money. Although researchers have looked at this age-old question from different angles, they generally agree that happiness depends not so much on how much we earn, but on how we choose to spend the money. Can it, therefore, be said that money buys happiness, Maybe, depending on how we use them. In your own life, you have e.g. maybe noticed that a raise or bonus didn't make you happier in the long run. The initial euphoria quickly faded as you got used to the new salary. Or maybe you found that buying that new smartphone or latest gadget didn't do much for your happiness. That doesn't mean it didn't give you pleasure. But it has nothing to do with your happiness in the medium term. The relationship between money and happiness. Tips for using money as an investment in our well-being. Science claims there are a few ways to spend money that are guaranteed to bring long-term happiness. Buying more time. A UCLA study of 400 Americans found that people who value time more than money are generally happier than those who don't believe that having more time is better than having more money. Imagine hiring a virtual assistant to handle the mundane tasks that tie you up, or other services that can free up your time. So you get time to spend on the things that really matter to you. It can be spending time with family and friends, or just go for a walk with your dog and watch the sunset. Costs for a dream experience. People mistakenly believe that buying things that last longer and even increase in value will make them happy much longer than experiences. Nevertheless, in reality, you quickly get used to the new designer winter boots that you were once obsessed with. Although you may still enjoy going with them, the initial happiness you experienced in the first few weeks quickly fades. A great experience such as a holiday on an exotic island, on the other hand, will remain in the memory for a lifetime. You'll always remember these moments as a wave of joy. True, experiences are fleeting, but the joy they bring will last a long time. These are the kinds of sensations and memories that can cheer you up when you're feeling down, and that can encourage you to arrange similar experiences. Spending money on friends and family. You will feel more satisfied when you spend time and money on the people who really matter to you. After all, we are all social animals, and it is important for our physical and mental health to have healthy relationships with others. Spending money on experiences is more rewarding because you often share the good times with a spouse, friend or family. Even going shopping together is more fun than doing it alone. Why does spending money on others make us happy? Psychologists say it's because it makes us feel good about ourselves. Giving to others strengthens a loving and generous image of ourselves that makes us happy. It helps us to create greater contact with them. People with strong social ties are generally happier than people without. To some extent, money contributes greatly to the feeling of well-being. But beyond this point, more money does not necessarily equate to a happier person. Nevertheless, with conscious and correct spending of money, one can actually buy a certain amount of happiness.